What happens when a nation's liquid gold suddenly loses its value? In the summer of 2025, thousands of American dairy farmers faced a nightmare. A $3 billion shipment of U.S. dairy was abruptly rejected by the Pan-Asian Economic Cooperative, one of America's largest export partners. The refusal sent shockwaves through the agricultural sector, threatening livelihoods from California to Wisconsin. The official reason? Failure to comply with new, stringent food safety standards. Milk prices plummeted, and a massive surplus threatened to bankrupt even the most efficient farms. For farmers, the geopolitics are distant noise. Their immediate concern is survival. The story of America's dairy crisis had begun. This crisis didn't erupt overnight. Its roots stretch back to early 2024, when PEC Commissioner Carney hinted at a new era of food accountability. U.S. trade officials dismissed her warnings as political posturing. But by late 2024, the PAEC quietly drafted the Purity and Provenance Protocol, banning any dairy from cows treated with RBST. In April 2025, the PAEC ratified the protocol, giving foreign suppliers just 90 days to comply, a timeline U.S. exporters called impossible. On August 6, 2025, the PAEC rejected all U.S. dairy shipments, worth $3 billion, citing traces of RBST markers. Dairy futures crashed over 30% in hours, and processors slashed orders from farmers. Farmers faced a grim choice: dump milk or sell at catastrophic losses. The disaster escalated from vague policy to full-blown crisis in just over a year, a stark lesson in global trade. At the center of this crisis is Evelyn Carney, PAEC's trade commissioner. Her Purity and Provenance Protocol was sold as a food safety measure, but many U.S. officials see it as protectionism in disguise. By setting standards the U.S. couldn't meet quickly, Carney created a near-impenetrable barrier to American dairy. The focus on RBST, a practice banned in much of the world but approved in the U.S., gave the PAEC a plausible pretext for trade restrictions. The protocol's impact was immediate. The U.S. lost access to a market that made up nearly a quarter of its dairy exports. Surplus milk flooded the domestic market, driving prices to historic lows. Farmers who expanded to meet export demand now faced bankruptcy. Carney remained resolute, insisting, "This is not a trade weapon, it's a shield for our consumers." American complaints were dismissed as resistance to modern standards. For U.S. farmers, Carney's policy was a calculated blow, one that prioritized regional advantage over years of trade partnership. The protocol's effects were swift, severe, and deeply personal for those on the ground. The U.S. dairy industry was left scrambling for answers. The scientific flashpoint in this dispute is RBST, a synthetic hormone that boosts milk production. Approved by the FDA and deemed safe by global health agencies, RBST remains controversial, mainly over animal welfare and market fairness, not human health. Many countries ban it, and the PAEC seized on this skepticism to justify their new rules. The PAEC's testing methods for RBST are unproven and not internationally validated, according to U.S. experts. Since RBST is nearly identical to natural hormones, detecting it in milk is extremely difficult. Even a small percentage of milk from treated cows can taint entire shipments under the PAEC's strict standards. The U.S. supply chain isn't fully segregated, making compliance nearly impossible. The science became a tool for trade barriers, not food safety. For American farmers, the debate over RBST is less about health and more about survival in a suddenly hostile global market. The controversy left them with few options and mounting losses. The immediate victims are over 30,000 American dairy families. The farm gate price for milk plunged below production costs, forcing farmers to lose money on every gallon. Many are selling off herds or dumping milk. Heartbreaking images of waste and despair. The crisis ripples through rural communities. Feed suppliers, vets, equipment dealers, and local businesses all suffer. Jobs in trucking, processing, and support industries are at risk. The collapse threatens the economic and social fabric of small towns across dairy states. The psychological toll is immense. Stress, debt, and uncertainty push farmers to the brink. Farming was already tough. Now, it's a daily struggle for survival. The PAEC's decision isn't just an economic blow, it's a deeply human crisis in America's heartland. The future for many family farms hangs in the balance. To grasp the crisis, look at the numbers. In 2024, U.S. dairy exports hit $10.2 billion, nearly 18% of all milk produced. The PAEC was the top buyer, taking almost a quarter of those exports. The rejected $3 billion shipment was more than a year's worth of trade with this vital partner. Other markets, like Mexico and Canada, can't absorb the sudden surplus. Milk prices crashed from over $21 to below $14 per hundredweight, well below the $18 cost of production. Most U.S. dairy farms are now losing money on every sale. The industry's reliance on a single trade bloc created a dangerous vulnerability. The numbers reveal a systemic shock, one that erased years of growth overnight. Recovery will require a fundamental rethink of America's global dairy strategy. Industry leaders have condemned the PAEC's move and called for urgent government action. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack labeled the rejection unjustified protectionism and promised to fight back. Jim Mulhern of the National Milk Producers Federation called it a calculated economic attack and urged for retaliatory tariffs and a WTO dispute. Farmers are dumping milk while a hungry world looks on. A tragedy, he said. Economists warn the real challenge is market diversification. The industry became too reliant on the PAEC. Dr. Mark Stevenson predicts years of painful adjustment and consolidation, with many small farms likely to close. The most poignant voices are the farmers themselves. Sarah Schmidt, a third-generation farmer, said, "We've weathered storms before, but this feels different. The rules don't matter anymore." She added, "We work hard, we produce good food, and now it's all threatened by a distant political decision. We're not asking for a handout, just a fair chance." Her words capture the heartbreak and frustration behind the headlines. The industry is united in anger, but divided on the path forward. Calls for government support grow louder as the crisis deepens. The future of American dairy hangs in the balance. For now, uncertainty reigns. The world is watching how the U.S. will respond, and farmers are left waiting for real solutions. The collapse of U.S. milk exports is rippling through the wider economy. The dairy industry supports over 3 million jobs and contributes $600 billion annually. Shipping companies, port operators, and truckers are losing revenue as shipments are canceled or rerouted. Warehouses overflow with unsold cheese and milk powder, adding storage costs and logistical headaches. The crisis raises tough questions about U.S. trade strategy. Can markets be closed overnight by new regulations? Other countries may follow the PAEC's lead, weaponizing food safety standards for economic gain. Domestic consumers may see lower prices now, but if farms close, future prices could spike. The stability of America's food supply depends on the financial health of its farmers. This crisis has put that health in jeopardy. The economic aftershocks are only beginning. The $3 billion rejection by the PAEC has plunged U.S. dairy into crisis. The move, justified by a controversial RBST ban, is widely seen as protectionism. Milk prices have collapsed, pushing thousands of farmers to the brink and threatening rural economies. The timeline reveals a rapid escalation and a critical need for better trade intelligence. Industry leaders and farmers are angry, uncertain, and desperate for solutions. The fallout extends beyond farms, impacting the entire economy and raising questions about global trade. The U.S. government is fighting back, but legal and diplomatic channels are slow. Diversifying export markets will take years and major adaptation. This crisis is a stark reminder of the risks in a globalized food system. The future of American dairy will be shaped by the decisions made in the coming months.